Obviously, in my office, I have everything set up. My computer won't let me in, so I really can't do what I wanted to, just do a test run of the live thing for the computer to see if it actually works. So we just got to suffer. Anyway, wanted to talk about basically something that's going on with Hollywood that um, people are taking notice of, that people are commenting about, that Emmy nominations are being thrown about for Kevin Costner. Um, and that is a TV show called Yellowstone. Its creator, and my hair looks like shit because I was going to see the horse, and she decided she wanted to braid my hair. Rest is history. Um, she slobbered all over me, and I got to take a shower. But I want to talk about this first. Uh, I wanted you to understand the Western is supposedly dead. You have people on other YouTube channels talking about it in a very, knowledgeable way. Hey, Cross, how you doing? Well, here's this, and the camera's up there, so I'd be talking like this, but because my computer will not let me in for some reason, I'm screwed. Anyway, um, you go to any big YouTube channel and they start talking about entertainment in general. Well, Western's dead, Yellowstone, blah blah. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Okay, so it is not that the Western is dead. Um, it is that there's dormancy. There's dormancy in storytelling. And Taylor Sheridan, who was an actor, is still an actor. And by the way, ladies, he's a good looking man. Check him out. Um, he's a cowboy. He's a rancher. He raises all the horses you see on Yellowstone are his horses. All of them. Okay. I think the cattle are too. Or he is a rancher. So a lot of the stuff that he's talking about is stuff that he knows intimately. All right. And he wrote the script about Yellowstone. It was rejected, and then Paramount Plus said, "Yeah, we'll do it." And he got Kevin Costner in, and then a plethora of other actors, including Kelly Riley, who's British, who plays everyone's favorite crazy blonde, Beth Dutton, Kevin Costner's daughter. Um, and it has been a gigantic hit. And I think it's a big, I don't care what, the non thinking people can say, oh, Stranger Things, you know, Game of Thrones, you know, Yellowstone's bigger. It's bigger. Why? Because it's got good writing, great directing, and good acting all together. So Sheridan decided to do a prequel, called it 1883. It starred Faith Hill and her husband Tim McGraw as James and Margaret Dutton. They take their kids across from Tennessee down to Texas, then have a wagon train up into Montana. Now, there is a lot of historical license going on here, okay? By 1883, the Sioux Indians were basically on reservations. They were not running around robbing, attacking wagon trains. Is Crazy Horse is dead. Okay, maybe there were some, uh, rogue warriors out there, robbing and pillaging and stuff, but they weren't doing what happened at the end of 1883. And the story is told by their oldest child, uh, Elsa, who is played by a very beautiful actress whose name I can't remember. I could look it up, but I'm not going to. Now, if I had my computer working, I could, because all I had to do is look at IMDb while I was talking to you. and I don't. Anyway, um, she falls in love with, I think, probably a Native American scout. Um, and he goes off to do something, and then the the settlers get attacked by a group of Lakota warriors, and she gets killed. Okay, she dies very tragically. It's a very long, horrible, painful death. With an arrow stuck like right here. Okay, but she kills the one that hurt her. I think her aunt dies, and her cousin is just, it's sad. It's tragic. What I like about it is the honesty about the way Sheridan writes about the West. He's not, saying poor Native Americans, you people came west and you stole all their land. There's no meing and mawing about that. The people that went west, and I'm not saying landed on Ellis Island and then didn't move more than 100 miles inland. Okay, talking about came to America, got to St. Louis, which is where most of this stuff started, gateway of the West, and then ventured forward. Or like the Duttons and also like Laura Ingalls Wilder's family, had settled in the United States, left their homes in Tennessee or Wisconsin, and ventured forth. Okay. Any stories you read about the settlers, Lonesome Dove is a very honest assessment of what it was like to live back then and venture forth, either with with Lonesome Dove, a cattle drive going to Montana, or venture forth with their family to find something that you could build. Okay, and that's the point. These people came from Britain, Norway, Germany, Austria, Sweden, Switzerland, Latvia, Russia, Italy, um, Ireland, Scotland, you name it, because they didn't have anything. All right, that's why the United States had ads out saying, "Hey, if you come to North Dakota and set up a homestead and you make it profitable in 5 years, that'll be your farm. That's yours." That didn't happen in England and in Europe. The oldest son inherited the farm, and if they had more than one, they had to find other jobs. There was no opportunity, so they left. My own grandfather did that, and the same was after the Civil War. A lot of people from the South, a lot of people from the North, like Laura Ingalls Wilder's family, and also her husband's, ventured west to Minnesota. Then he ventured west to the Dakotas. Okay. It's all to find something that they can call their own. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Never in the history of the human race has that really ever happened. Okay. Now, were there people there? Yes. Let's talk about that, because part of 1923 is that we're crying about the Native American schools, and that's the one part I'm going to disagree with a lot. As a Catholic, I know that some would look at education system as harsh, but if you honestly thought, hi Dave, that people didn't get ass whoopings in Catholic schools in Philadelphia, you're wrong. Okay, that should happen. That should happen in regular schools. Okay, so shut up. Go sit down and don't be stupid. Um, and I have a real hard time with that. It's again, it's ignorance of that part of the history, and that's these poor people, these poor kids. I don't care. But They were there, but let me explain something. There's a scene in 1883 where you've got Graham Greene as a Crow elder. Graham Greene is not a Crow Indian, by the way. I think he's Sioux. I think he's a Lakota. Says to James Dutton, "Oh, in 7 generations, my family can rise up and take everything that you stole from us." Really? Why don't you go back and tell the Sioux you're going to rise up and take the Black Hills from them? Because guess who showed up in about, early 1600s, maybe 1700, early 1700s? The Sioux, which were by far the biggest tribe in general on the Great Plains, were moving west because they were being kicked out of Wisconsin in Minnesota by the Winnebagos, the Kickapoo, which are also the Chippewa, you name it. Okay, who got guns from the French? All right, this is what goes on. It is nothing more than a history, and I'm sorry, but I'm not going to shed any tears. I won't do that anymore. You're not going to make me feel guilty about being white, especially when you look at the shit that the people who went there to build their ranches and their homesteads and their towns went through. Can I bring up the blizzard I think, of 1888? In Laura Ingalls Wilder's books, The Long Winter, she talks about De Smet, South Dakota, and that they were stuck, snowbound, for the entire winter. And it started in early October and it didn't stop until May or even June. That's when they could get the railroads back open. Okay, let's not pretend that the only people who suffered were the Native Americans, okay? I don't feel bad, all right? The truth, okay, is everybody did, because it was a brutal world. Okay, now, let's talk about Lonesome Dove. You're talking about the edge of civilization. When Woodrow, played by Tommy Lee Jones, tells Gus, who's played by Robert Duvall, "Hey, Tessera, how you doing?" Says, "What about going up to Montana? I want to see what that land looks like before all the bankers, lawyers, and teachers show up." Okay. All right. What you're seeing in 1883 is Tim McGraw basically telling his wife, Margaret, "I don't want to be in Tennessee anymore." Now let's set the history up, how the Duttons got to Montana. 1883. Civil War has been over 10 years. If you drive down I-95 right now, between here and Georgia, when you get around South Carolina, you are going to see places that have not changed since the Civil War. The South was beaten down, it was underpopulated, and it was broken. There was nothing there. Okay, and sure, the slaves were free. There's a reason why the cavalry, and the 7th Cavalry spent after the Civil War in Kentucky fighting the Ku Klux Klan. Okay, that's what they were doing. Reconstruction. The Reconstruction era was a tough era. People wanted it. People wanted an opportunity, and it just wasn't happening. So they moved west, which is what James Dutton does. And this is how they end up in Montana, where the Dutton Ranch is born. Where Elsa is buried, that's where they stayed. Okay. We have a real interesting look. It's not weepy, it's not sentimental, it is what happens. In 1883, in the opening chapter, Sam Elliott is there with a bunch of German immigrants. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They want to go all the way to Oregon. Okay. How the hell did you end up in Texas, by the way? Um, and he's looking at him for smallpox. And he says to a couple, "You've got smallpox. Go down to the river and wait to die. You're not coming with us." That's it. That's what happened. All right. That's the way it was. The edge of civilization. All right. Texas was I think it was a state then. Yes, it was. But it was still the edge of the empire. Okay. San Francisco, that coast is civilized somewhat, like the East Coast. But everything between there is nothing but outlaws like Jesse James and Billy the Kid, lawmen who kind of skirted, kind of was on the edge of the law, Wyatt Earp, gangs of outlaws like the Clanton gang, and the Cowboys, kind of Curly Bill Brocious, Jim Ringo, and Doc Holliday, who was an outlaw, but he was Wyatt's friend, so therefore he was on their side. Okay, that's just the way it was. Deadwood, South Dakota, Dodge City, Kansas. Some of those dangerous places in the world. There was no law and order. Sure, they had marshals and sheriffs. And yesterday, that sheriff might have been robbing somebody's cattle, okay, or a wagon train, or all right, that's the way it was. Okay, you had the cavalry out there trying desperately to keep the peace. Fort Sill, Oklahoma, if you ever want to go and actually look at the history of the Old West, you've got it right there in all its glory, including the house where General Sherman, who was the general of the army, right, was there, and the Kiowa chiefs that had come in went there to honor him and tried to kill him. Well, they ended up being hung. Geronimo is buried there. The cliff that he jumped his horse off is right there. All right. Quanah Parker, the last Comanche chief, basically made a deal and got all this land. There aren't any Comanche reservations in Oklahoma. You know what is there? People who own their own land. Quanah Parker, remember that name. It was a rough, tough, terrible place, and people did not grow old. And if they did, they were lucky. Okay, so you got 1883, and that's just the hellaciousness of trying to travel in horses with wagons. It was not romantic. People were carrying diseases like smallpox. You got dysentery from bad water. Trying to teach people, wherever you're taking a dump, go get your water ahead of that, above that. Okay, that's all outlaws, bandits, you name it. Okay, and the wagon trains that went to the Southwest, I don't know if the Apaches were still marauding or not. I don't think they were. But, I mean, the early wagon trains, like in the 1860s, they did get attacked by Native Americans. All right, they did get attacked by the Sioux and the Comanches and the Cheyenne and the Arapahoes and the Kiowas and you name it. All right. Interesting fact. The Crow, the Blackfeet, and the Shoshone were all allies of the U.S. during the Plains Indian Wars. They got the reservations they wanted. Okay, they got what they wanted. Interesting how that works. At least I know the Shoshone did. And of course, the Comanches fought right up until the end and said, we'll come in. Can we all just have our own land? Sure. There we go. So it's very interesting to me how Sheridan unveils the truth of what was going on. Okay. It was miserable. And in 1923, it was miserable. Again, if you own a cattle ranch, you are, even nowadays, you are going to be plagued by diseases. If the cattle haven't been vaccinated, or let's say like there's a new disease and the vaccine's not out, you're in up to your ears. Okay. Um, Harrison Ford in his soliloquy from Sunday night brought up Texas fever. Okay. You got drought, locusts. You've got sheep herders. Now, sheep are cute. They taste good. They also eat everything right down to the roots and kill the grass. Cattlemen don't like sheep. There's your problem. And the biggest enemy that a rancher like James Dutton would have, like Jacob Dutton says, like John Dutton III, Kevin Costner, has, are other men. And you see it in every show, in every iteration of this. John Dutton, it's the people from New York and California who want to turn his valley into a damn ski resort or whatever. Okay? They want the ranch. You're not going to have the ranch. Okay? And his own adopted son, Jamie. Jamie. Yeah, Jamie. Who I don't like him. He's a pussy. Okay? And Jacob Dutton, when he says that to John's grandfather, who's Jack at the time, he gets quoted by Kevin Costner. That is a bit of wisdom that probably came from James. All right. Jacob Dutton's the one that keeps the ranch together after James is killed. All right. And what I love about this is Taylor Sheridan is not afraid to show a man being a man. From in one of the episodes, they're still in, I think they're in Fort Worth. James Dutton goes and rescues his daughter from being raped, and he shoots the guy. No one's going to say, hey, you're going to jail. I mean, okay, that's fair. Jacob Dutton telling that sheep rancher, don't cross me. The sheep herder does. The sheep herder gets over. And Jacob says, I want at least some of them to get back, to tell the others never to cross me. That's not being evil. That's not being a bad person. That's protecting what's his. And again, if you think about that ranch, I don't give a crap how many Native Americans scream and rant that it was their land. It was somebody else's land before they got there. Okay, so Crimea River. The suffering and blood that went in to taking that territory and turning it into a working ranch is everything. This is why when you get to Yellowstone, Rip has a brand on his chest. Or is on this side. It would be, on this side. Where a lot of the hands were branded with Yellowstone. Why? If you're going to be part of this, you're going to wear it. Okay? That's just the way it is. And they will do anything they can to protect it. And the cattle. Okay? So, in my opinion, there are a lot of truths being told. Like when Kevin Costner tells that, who are the characters I hate in Yellowstone? I hate Jamie. I hate everything about him. And I hate Summer. I hate Summer. Now that fight that she and Beth had, Beth kicked her ass. Beth is the one that's standing up and helps her up. But Summer is a little hippy dippy fucking pain in the ass, and I don't like her, not even a little bit. All right, it's time. Every time I see her, it's like make her go away. Just make her go away. But it makes fun of women like that. It makes fun of uh, tree hugging animal rights freakazoids. Okay, because that's what she is. Okay. Kevin Costner tells her she's full of shit. And she is. Okay. She won't. The thing about it is she's a fanatic. And every time she opens up her mouth, they're sitting down to eat dinner. And she's got to say something. She's a guest there. She's got to say something shitty. Okay. It's like, get the fuck out of my house. Send her back to prison. All right. It's just, but Taylor Sheridan is making a point about those people. All right. He's making a point about them. Who's right in this? Kevin Costner. Who's right in the fight between the sheepmen and the cattlemen? Jacob, Harrison Ford. All right. Why? They got there first. It's theirs. Okay, now I know I sound hypocritical. But the sheepherders didn't fight outlaws, bandits, marauding rogue Indians. Okay? All right? They just got there and decided, oh, we're staying. All right. So, you're not going to see any saints in this. What you're going to see is a reality. Okay, now let's talk about, I think the new character everybody really, really likes. Spencer Dutton, played by Brandon Sklenar. Brandon Sklenar actually played Burt Reynolds in The Offer. Okay, and he is a fine-looking man. All right, I don't know where he has been, but watching this, he's about the most masculine human being I have seen come out of Hollywood since Kevin Costner. Okay, all right, he fits perfectly into this, and he plays Spencer Dutton, the youngest brother the youngest son of James and Margaret, and he fought in World War I. He's suffering from PTSD. I gotta go pretty soon because I gotta take a shower. He's suffering from PTSD, and he went to Africa and became a white hunter, and he goes around basically killing, shooting, marauding, man-killing leopards, lions, hyenas, stuff like that. And he's a very interesting figure. He's very mysterious. At one point, Clara Dutton, played by Helen Mirren, she's Jacob's wife, writes him a letter asking him to come home. Now, let's set this up. Jacob and Clara don't have their own kids. Let me say this. We don't know if their children died. We don't know what happened. Maybe she couldn't have children. All right. But they raised James and Margaret's two sons, John and Spencer, to take over the ranch, and then Spencer went off to the war. And Spencer, because of what he's seen during the war and his PTSD, is not coming home. He is like, no, I'm out. Okay. It's sad. It's tragic. But he's going to have an adventure. I'm not going to tell you exactly what he goes off to do, but it's very interesting to me. And I think it adds something to the historical epic that Sheridan is trying to tell us, that you can be in a valley in Montana protected by mountains and beautiful pastures and rivers and all the wild game you could want, and suffered through droughts and blizzards and all the rest of that stuff. But the modern world will eventually come in and knock on the door, And World War I was that. Now you've got the war over. I'm going to go on after I explain this. And the army, the military is not buying beef. So beef prices are gone. You've got a drought. You've got sheep herders who are just as bad as locusts. Okay. And nothing against sheep herders, but when you've got open range like this, you've got to understand that there's going to be a fight. And you've got to understand that sheep and cattle do not mix. Okay. And those cattle have to eat. Okay. And this is, you've got the sheep herders, which aren't really part of the modern world. You got World War I, which harbored basically, we're here. Okay. All the changes that were happening in the beginning of the 20th century, socialist movements, the weird modern entertainment. There's a lot of really funky bohemian things going on in Europe. That was basically a harbinger for the Great War, World War I. World War I basically destroyed all the European monarchies. The only one that survived, barely, is the British monarchy. That's it. But the Habsburgs left the throne of Austria-Hungary. We know that the Tsar and his wife and all their kids were brutally murdered by goddamn communists. And there you go. Okay. But that's a big thing. And that reached all the way across the world and landed on the Dutton's lap. Got railroads bringing in people. All right. You've got, Jack Dutton's fiance, Eastern educated, all the rest of the stuff. A lot of modern stuff going on. So the changes are coming. There's good change and there's bad change. And this is, I would say, some bad change. All right. We will see what happens. Okay, anyway, I gotta go. I want to get cleaned up because I smell like mare funk. So you guys have a good evening. And I know I said I wasn't going to do any live broadcasting. There's civilization, and then there's the dregs, I think, and that's the problem. Okay. But I thought I'd talk about this because a friend of mine wanted me to, and I had to. If you haven't watched Yellowstone, if you haven't watched any of this, you have to. Taylor Sheridan, I really think, is the future of streaming and TV and maybe even movies. He is a great storyteller, and oh boy, does he bring out the manly man shit. Okay. And look, he gave the three of the great, gotta talk about Tulsa King. Sylvester Stallone was born to play the role of Dwight Manfredi. If you haven't seen Tulsa King, see it. I'm literally like watching it going, like the last one was dark as hell, but it's so good I can't even, because it's not politically correct. In fact, you got Kevin Costner going off on PETA people and idiot environmentalists and idiot developers, basically trying to protect the land from all of them. And you've got Harrison Ford basically trying to protect the ranch from sheep herders and just bullshit in general. And I think we're going to see cattle thieves too. And you've got Sylvester Stallone going off on pronouns, politically correct crap, and protecting his family. I mean, he delivered a beatdown that I'm still not quite. I was like, let's put it this way. What he did to the guy who raped his daughter was uneffing believable. And the character should have been given a medal and carried around on a chair. All right. Tulsa King is great. 1923 is fantastic, except for the Native American schools, because it doesn't have anything to do with the Dutton story. And the only thing you see them doing is when the sheep herders get up to that level of range and take down the Dutton's fence and let their stupid sheep in, and then take a pot shot at Jack and shoot his horse. What Harrison Ford does to them is poetic, and what he does is with the sheep was he gave them to the Native Americans. He gave them to the reservation. They're starving. All right. There you go. Okay. So anyway, when I talk about it, you guys look. I think Taylor Sheridan is hope for the future of entertainment because he tells stories the way that they should be told. And we'll be talking more. I think maybe next time I do an upload, I'll talk about the missed opportunity, and I'm going to give you a hint. Indiana Jones and the Hammer of the Gods. I found something out, and I will reveal it to you, and you'll all be like, Steph signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.